Tabby here from tabbies.ca. And tonight I have Shannon from JujuB Art. How are you
Hi,
doing tonight?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Good. Finally got my kid to sleep. I think I'm organized now. We're
Yay,
ready to go.
that's excellent.
Yeah. So, can you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Sure. I started making jewelry probably about 3 years ago. Um, Probably early pandemic, so early 2019. I've always done costuming and I've done purses and I was a belly dancer and I've made costumes. And so it just kind of seemed to be almost a natural progression into doing jewelry. And plus, I love wearing jewelry. So I wanted to, I don't know, just kind of create something that nobody else has. Right. And
I
I use
understand that feeling.
Yeah, and I use odds and ends. So I there is new intermixed with old because it's very important to me to be environmentally friendly. So there'll always be some older pieces and with newer pieces, just trying to keep stuff out of the landfill and you know be more kind of aware of. It's a big industry and a lot of stuff goes to waste. So I would like to kind of repurpose it and put my own twist on it, and hopefully it speaks to people and it tells them a story that speaks to them too.
No, and I love that reclamation piece of it too, right? Like it's like art for good.
Yeah, right. Like, and it's a little dark. Some of my pieces are dark. I'm dark. I'm an old goth. What can I say? Right? Old habits die hard. Um, but I don't know. There's something to be said for kind of bringing the darkness to light, right?
Oh, I would agree with that. I also think that really good art can come from very dark places sometimes. So,
Very true. Very true.
like you have that goth. I don't know exactly. I forget the word you used, but the Snow White you have the dark fairy tales. Oh, she's so cool, and she's dark, but in a really kind of
Sure.
cute and whimsical way. I don't really know how to.
Yeah, right. I want to be able to I don't know kind of convey that fairy tales and stories generally are dark, right? There's meaning behind it and lessons to be learned from those stories, and a lot of the times they're not too pleasant, but it doesn't have to be terrifying, but it's still a little well, Brothers Grimm, right?
Yeah, there's a reason they were called Brothers Grimm, and it wasn't because they were nice.
Exactly. And I mean, her in her coffin, it's so cute. It opens up, and you can take her out and stuff. And I thought, well, how do I signify the seven dwarves because they are the ones that helped her. So that's where the roses come in that are going up the chain, and the one on the back to signify them. So it kind of just ties it all in. I Every piece I make, I try to convey a story with it, or at least so the wearer or the people appreciating it kind of make up their own story to it. It's almost like I give them the jump off, right?
Yep. No, for sure. And you want something that you can kind of make your own.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah.
And I do love that you have the seven roses for the drawers. The dwarves. It's so, and the fact that they're black and white too. It's really, I like that part of it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I tried to do I don't know, a lot of different pieces. I've kind of called the whole, I don't know, my whole jewelry set to wearable narratives because you wear them, they tell a story, and there's meaning behind it. So hopefully others see it that way as well.
Well, and they look like they'd be great conversation starters too, right? So you're out and about, and it's something that I would notice on someone. I'd be like, that's so cool.
I've had customers actually that have written me and said, like, strangers are coming up to me and asking me about my jewelry, and I find it flattering and it's wonderful, and they love it too. So, but it does. They're pieces for sure. They don't shy away from people's attention, right?
Yep. And good art should tell a story, really. When you look at a piece, there should be more than just what you see.
I agree. I agree. There should be some definition, some meaning to it. Otherwise, it's just run of the mill. You could pick it up anywhere, right?
Yeah, you could get one of 1,000 or 1,000,000 different necklaces at Walmart, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
So how did you learn to do the jewelry? Like I know you said you started off with belly dancing, and there's lots of like chains and rings that go into the belly
Mhm.
dancing outfits. But how did you start with the jewelry?
Uh, Trial and error, really. I watched tutorials. I watched videos. It really didn't help. You go through, it's a learning curve just like anything else, and I'm still learning. I am always in the process of learning. If you Once you stop learning, you don't get any better, right? So
Yep.
uh, it yeah, taking things apart, seeing if I could put them back together. Um, there's so many just weird little nuances about jewelry that I had no idea. Like I mean, now I have, tools, I have drills, I have jeweler's glasses, I have magnifying glasses with lights, I never realized I needed any of that in the beginning. It was just like, oh, I think I'm going to do this for fun. And then you realize you put it on and it falls apart. And well, that didn't work. So how do I fix this? How do I make it better and stronger? And so now, I mean, they're still, they're delicate. They're not meant to be pulled or tugged on, but they're durable and they'll last you forever if you treat them well.
Yep, that's true. And you don't realize how much tools you need. Like I haven't done a lot of jewelry, but I made polymer clay pieces and I would make earrings and necklaces and stuff out of them. And you do need the tools.
Yeah, you do. You do need the tools. Like, and you, there's a surprising amount of things you can use as tools too, right? Like pins or toothpicks or
Yeah.
whatever else you could find around. Oh, I need a paper clip to hold this in place. Or it's it really is. You really do think out of the box while you're creating it, and because of all the pieces that you need as well, right? All the different tools, and so it's a constant kind of mind process to it. But I find it very peaceful and very relaxing, and it's great escapism for me. So
It's
I
nice
really
to have you really what?
I really enjoy doing it.
It's nice to have something where you can go there and just kind of disappear into it for a little while.
It's wonderful, actually. Earlier, when I was doing costumes and I've done Christmas stockings and purses, and my children were younger. So I knew I could always kind of go back to it, but I was always constantly interrupted. But now it's wonderful because they're older and I can work all weekend long. I can work every night if I want. It doesn't matter. My time is my own. So it really helps to be expressive and be creative, and it gets those kind of juices flowing when you can just sit there and try 10, 20, 15 different ideas, and some will stick, some won't, right? But at least you're not interrupted by it.
That's true, and I understand that the kid thing. I have kids of my own, and I have older children, and I have a younger child.
Yeah.
And the freedom you get when your kids are older is so it's so important for you and your mental health.
Oh, 100%. 100%. It's very
I get
relaxing.
I get distracted with whatever I'm trying to do anymore. My youngest is 4, so it's a
Oh,
busy time.
busy. Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure. They always need something. right?
Oh yeah. Usually just your attention. Like,
Oh
look at this
yeah,
picture.
yeah.
So when you started creating, you said it was about 3 years ago you started at the beginning of the pandemic. Did you know you wanted to make a business out of it?
No, not really. I'm constantly learning. I constantly trying new things. So I thought, well, I'm going to try this because I love jewelry and I want to see if I can do it. And then it progressed from there. It just, I don't know, it kind of manifested on itself, right? You get one idea and then you do that, but while you have that idea, you have five more ideas, and so you want to get those done, and it just builds and builds and builds, and then before I know it, I had so many pieces of jewelry, and I'd have friends come over and they're, oh, I want this. Can I have the, can I buy this from you? What do you want for it? And I'm like, oh, whoa, never even thought about selling it, or but then I thought, well, maybe I should. So that's kind of just how it progressed. It's still a very young business per se, but it's fun. I love it. I love it.
Well, and that's the hallmark of knowing you're in the right spot, right? If you're happy doing it and people are interested and wanting to buy, you've hit your niche, right?
Exactly. Exactly. And I've met some great people who have been like wonderful customers. And I love what they see. Uh, they kind of see what I've put into it and the kind of the thought process that I've had, but then they also see their own, how can I explain it? They also connect with it on their own personal level too. I've had a customer, I did a piece, I did a collection of almost like taxidermied animals they almost look like cameos. And the one customer deeply connected with that because she came across an injured deer a few years ago and has been looking after it. And so when she saw that piece, she was like, this piece is meant for me. Like this was created for me. And I'm like, yay. Finally, has a connection with it. It's different, but they understand the connection that I had with it. And now they have a connection with it too. Right.
Yeah. No, and it's awesome to see how people interpret what you make because sometimes they don't interpret it the way you think they're going to.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I've had some people that they're 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 not turned off by it, but they don't understand why, well, why do you have to use so many skulls, or why is it so dark? But yet they're fascinated by it. And then when I explain certain pieces to them, it makes sense to them. And then they love the pieces. So it's a really it's a very no, it's very interesting. You connect with people kind of differently when because jewelry is very personal, right?
Oh yeah.
And artwork is personal, but jewelry, if you're going to wear it around, it means something to you. So the connections are very interesting that I've made with people.
And that's one of the best things about making art too, right? Is you get to connect with people. When you start selling it and getting it out there, like you get to really connect with people.
You do, yeah, and I'm generally not a connect with people type of person, but it's almost like those are my people, right?
Yep,
They come up to me, so those are my people, right?
it's true. It's true. Um, you were talking about the deer one. Those like I seen that it was like the 3D type deer on. That was so cool.
Thank you.
How did you connect that? Because I'm looking at it, I'm like, how does that like how do you get it to stay together?
Oh, lots of curse words, lots of frustration, and lots of time. Um, yeah, that was a bunch of different pieces actually. So the actual base that the deer skull was sitting on was a piece of old jewelry that I had that I disconnected. And then I finished the back of it so it looks clean. And then I connected the deer to it. I use a lot of like jeweler's epoxy and a jeweler's glue. So it's sturdy. It'll stay on there for, trust me, it stays on there. I've tried to take some pieces off, and once they're on, there's, there's no going back. And then the chain was made up of different chain that I already had, and then connector pieces that I linked it. It was a learning process, that one for sure. That whole collection was, because I wanted something that was cohesive, but each piece was individual, and kind of it each piece connects the whole picture, right, of that whole collection of the taxidermy. And I loved it. I sometimes I will keep a piece for myself from those collections, but I never had the opportunity to do that with that when they all sold. So
And it is nice when they all sell, but sometimes for me, like I always get this like, oh, I kind of want that one.
right, yeah, no, I totally get it. There's pieces that I have made that I do keep for myself. I can't part with them. But an artist friend of mine told me a few years ago when I was getting into this that you'll want to keep every piece that you make. That's just because so much of you goes into a piece that it's very hard to get rid of it, right? So
Yep.
you'll want to keep every piece that you make, but really what you have to do when you're creating is think about the person that ultimately it's going to end up with, and how much they're going to love and enjoy that piece. So it's kind of what I think about while I'm creating, but then I create something and I'm like, oh, I love it. I just gonna want to keep it. So
But
it's
your
good
artist
advice
friend,
if I follow it, but sometimes you just don't follow it, right?
no, it is hard to follow advice, even if it is good advice, because sometimes you just don't want to listen to it.
Exactly.
I know that feeling though, where you don't want to get rid of things. So your artist friend is right, because you run out of room. Like I make quilts and bags and everything, and you run out of space.
I'm dealing with that currently right now. I would love to have a studio. And I'm sure my family would love me to have a studio, because I have my own kind of nook carved out, but that nook is kind of expanding into other areas because you run out of room, right?
Yep. And room for supplies too. Like I don't know about you, but every time I go, I'm like, oh, I love this. I need to have this. I'll make something beautiful with it.
Oh, so true. So true. Even if I don't need it, or even if I'm like, I don't know, like, can I use that? Or I'll see something. I try to shop a lot from other Canadian Etsy stores.
Yep.
I try to buy as local as I can. I try to buy Canadian. I think it's very important to support small business. So I'm on there constantly, and I spend too much money on there.
It's
There's
easy
just
to
too
though.
many wonderful things to be had. There really are.
Yep. And then you fall in love with certain artists too. Like
Oh, 100%.
it's and then it's hard because you're like, what do they got now? And you get email notifications and you're like, oh, what are they doing?
Exactly. Yeah, it's so, so true.
So what inspires you to create your art?
Pretty much the world around me. I like dark. I like macabre. Anything pretty much that's off the beaten path, different, unusual, maybe uncomfortable, or fantastical and whimsical, and just kind of otherworldly, imaginative things, right? But then that being said, the other night I was out and I was staring at the moon because it was beautiful, and this weekend I'm creating a moon necklace. So it's pretty much all around, right? And then there, of course, there's other artists too that their work I see and I'm just awestruck and I think, wow, that's incredible. And and then I don't know, I kind of build a story in my head off of that. Um, it never looks anything like what they've done, but it's kind of a feeling that they've given me, if that makes sense.
Oh, it definitely makes sense. Doing these interviews every week, I find that I get so inspired. Like I'm just, dripping with inspiration. And then, trying to find the time is difficult. But I have all these ideas and I'm writing down ideas and it's, it is. It's other people can be so inspiring.
Oh, completely, completely. Or just life is inspiring too. Like just seeing, the first flowers in spring. It's just so beautiful after all the snow, and you want to work with color, and you want to do something floral and something, almost like a rebirth, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I can't pinpoint anything, but um yeah, just life, I guess.
It's funny that you said the first flowers of spring because I bought this at the grocery store, the hyacinth,
Oh,
and
hyacinth.
they kind of smell like lilacs. So I've literally been bringing them with me from room to just because I need that like spring kind of
Oh, for
feel.
sure. Yeah, it's a good feeling. It's a fresh start, right?
Yeah, it makes me want to open my windows, but it's too cold for that.
You're right. Yeah. And windy.
Yeah, yeah. My kids don't like spring, early spring, because I do open all the windows. I open the windows. I start cleaning. I try leaving all the time.
Oh yeah. Well, you got to let that old air out and the new air in, right?
Yep. Oh yeah. But it's funny because when I was a kid, I didn't like that about my mom, and now I'm the one who opens all the windows.
It's part of being a mom, right? Get the still air out.
Basically, yes.
But it does.
Oh,
I think it actually, it kind of it does. It releases kind of all the things that have been building up, and it pushes it out and lets fresh air and a fresh start kind of in.
yeah. It's better than spring cleaning.
Makes your house smell great. You didn't have to do anything, right?
Exactly. I'm a big fan of not having to do a lot to clean it.
I get
I'm busy
that.
in here.
I totally get that.
So, um, you have a bunch of pieces that I absolutely adore. Like one of them being the mirror necklace.
Oh
Did
yeah.
did you find the mirror?
I did actually. I did find the mirror. I found the mirror, and then well, I wanted to do Snow White. So there was actually a third piece to that collection, but it sold. It was an apple, and it was kind of all eaten, and it was really cool. So that piece sold, and I wanted to do Snow White because I found it very, I don't know. It's kind of poignant, and it's very dark. I mean, Snow White was like
Oh
12
yeah.
years old, right, and was hunted by her evil stepmother, and the things that she wanted to do to her to get her out of town, pretty much was
Oh yeah.
horrendous. So that mirror necklace, it actually does have a heart on it. It doesn't have the poison comb. I tried to work it in, but it didn't really look great. And then also there was a poison corset as well, which Snow White's evil stepmother tried to kill her with. Um, but that didn't kind of work into it either. So I thought the mirror is pretty significant. And then going up the chain with the skulls, or the different ways kind of that she's tried to kill her, right?
Okay, I see that now. And it was funny. I was going to ask you if that was a heart on the end of the chain because it really looked like a heart, and
It
it looks
is,
like it would
yeah.
fit.
Yeah, it's an anatomical heart. I try to use, there are cutesy hearts that I use too, but I like the anatomy of it. I don't know, it's kind of, I don't know, it kind of, it jars people. It grabs attention, and and I'm surprised that a lot of people don't actually, like, when they've seen it, they're like, "Is that a heart?" I'm like, "It is." Is that what a heart looks like? I'm like, "That is what a heart looks like." Right? It's not just the cutesy ones, but um, yeah, that piece is, it's one of my favorite pieces for
It's
sure.
beautiful. When I
Thank
seen it, I literally in my head thought, "Mirror, mirror on the wall."
That's, yep.
And you had a pair. I don't know if you still have them, but you had a pair of bleeding heart earrings, and I just thought those were so cool. So like with
Oh,
the anatomical hearts and the
oh
little
yeah,
red beads,
yeah,
those
yeah.
are
Those are
so
gone.
cool.
Those are gone. Thank you. Thank you. I'm actually working on some hair accessories now because I thought, well, hair clips kind of seem to be the next natural progression, right? While I do other stuff, it's jewelry for your hair, essentially. So I'm working on an anatomical heart piece now, which I have to say is pretty cool. But but yeah, I loved those ones. Those ones were really nice. But I did a show and they went. But yeah, they were fun. They were not fun to drill because I have tiny little jeweler's drills and stuff like that. But piecing it together, and then when it was done, I was like, oh, I don't know. I think I need to keep this for myself. And eventually, I'm like, how many pieces of jewelry can I actually really keep for myself, right? So,
I
thank you.
went through a stint of making hair bows, like
Mm.
out of ribbon and polymer clay and stuff, and I love doing them. And I sold a bunch of them. Like I probably sold 100 of them, but I made so many, and I kept them at first. At first, I just kept them. I only made them for me, and I kept them. And I think at my last count, before we moved, I had like 60, almost 60 of them. And I'm like, what am I gonna do with these all? Like I wore hair bows every single day, but with 60 of them, you're not gonna be able to wear them out.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true.
So I ended up giving a bunch away, and I haven't done that since we moved here. Like when we moved here, I kind of you change your prerogatives every so often, right? Like
Yeah.
you get it,
Well, there's
things
even
start
pieces
getting.
that I've made that I love, I love, and then I'm, no, you know what? I need to keep this for myself. I try to limit it down to what really, really I know I could never part with. Um, because I'll keep it. It'll sit here for a few months. I'm like, oh, I love it, I love it, I love it. And then I'll make something and oh, I love that. I need to keep that. So it kind of just progresses that, okay, now this can go into the store and be sold and somebody else can love it, right? I haven't
Yeah.
even worn it, but I covet it almost like it's like my precious,
Yeah.
right?
There's nothing like Smeagol, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I love Lord of the Rings. I guess I'm a little geeky like that, but
Oh, that's okay. I am too. I am too.
well, we have to be a little bit different. You have to be a little bit different in order to do art, really. Like,
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. I have not uh, met any artist that I would say is mainstream or um, isn't unique and interesting in their own way. For sure. For sure.
well, if you didn't have a flair, you'd be boring, right? Like, you
Pretty
know,
much. Yeah. Yeah. It's not. I think everybody has the ability to be creative and
oh
to
yeah,
do something probably extraordinarily wonderful or
yeah.
artistic wise, whether that's music or whether it's jewelry or whether it's writing. But I don't know, a lot of people just they're not able to find that niche for themselves, which I think is kind of tragic actually, because it is so fulfilling and it is so personally rewarding.
And I find art can be very powerful. Like whatever you're doing,
Mhm.
whether you're doing fabric art or music, or like my
Mhm.
middle child does music, my older child's into business, but he still does pixel art for fun. And like
Mhm.
whatever it is, it's really powerful for your overall health, your calm, tranquility,
Mhm.
your sanity. Like,
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. It really is. It's I don't know. It's not just even appreciation for other people's art. It's appreciation for your own art too, right?
yep.
And your own kind of sanity, right?
Yeah. But you were talking about your hair clips. One of the hair clips I noticed was the sun hair clip.
Mhm.
And I really love the face, like the sun face in there. Did you like find him or did you like
I've
make
had
him?
that sun face. I ordered. Oh, geez, I don't know. I've probably had that sun face for 15 years.
Oh
Because
wow.
it was one of those things that I saw and I was like, I have to have this, and I don't know why, and I don't know what I'm going to use it for, but I'm going to use it for something eventually. So then I created the hair clip out of a broken necklace, actually.
Oh.
And yeah, yeah. So there's a lot of recycle kind of pieces in there, right? The hair clips are themselves are always new, but the pieces
Yep.
that are on them are mixed just like my jewelry is. And I kind of set it up there and I thought, that's exactly where you need to be. So
It's
this is
funny the
why
way
I
that
wore it
works.
like a dragon. And this is why my family wants me to have a studio, because they're like, you've got so much stuff. When are you ever going to use it? I'm like, I don't know, but one day maybe it'll come in handy.
I love that line. I hoard like a dragon. I
Or magpie, one or the other. If it's shiny, it's mine, right? Yeah.
if I could turn the computer, you'd see my
That's why I'm facing. That's why my head's here. You're looking at a wall.
yeah.
Anywhere else? Yeah, no.
The only thing you see here is my button collection and my working area.
Which is lovely, actually. It's like so peaceful. I'm like, it's so clean and it's so nice.
Oh
My
no.
work
Oh
area
no.
gets pretty chaotic.
It's only clean and organized when I do the interviews. The rest of the time there's pieces of fabric everywhere.
I can
There's always
imagine.
something. No, it's hard when you're a creative person to not have that bit of disorganization.
True.
Like I get ideas in my head and you're trying to get them out, and I don't know about you, but I multitask. So like I have this swivel chair and I literally swivel from, back and forward. I'm like, I'm drawing here. Okay, well I gotta do this. It's just
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, 100%. 100%. Like even if it's, I'll have my workstation and I'm doing that, and then I'll realize, oh, you know what? I need to glue this for this piece, so I'm over there doing that, and then, I, then I'll be, oh, I need to find this for another piece that I want to work. So it gets kind of out of hand, and then and then I spend the day cleaning it up, and that's just kind of frustrating because then I don't feel productive, and those are the days I really want to be creative. And I'm like, I can't be creative in this space. I can't find
yeah.
anything, right?
Yep. Oh yeah. And I hate organizing it because I can never organize in one time. Like you start organizing it, you're like, I'm just gonna go through this part, 3 or 4 items in, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to.
Right? Or I didn't know I had this. This is awesome. I'm going to set this aside over here because I'm going to use this soon. And, soon is relative, right?
Yeah. Oh, soon is so relative. I'm so last summer I bought a big piece of fabric because I was gonna make myself a new purse. I make purses and stuff too, right? But I'm like I'm gonna make myself a new purse. It's been forever. and I seen this gnome fabric, and I'm like, this is what I'm gonna use. And I bought it, and I brought it home, and I haven't liked any of the suedes that I have to go with it, and so
Hmm.
it's just sitting there. Like,
It's waiting. Yeah.
yeah, nobody's like I'm not using it for anything else. It has a purpose.
Its time will come. Yeah, it
Yeah,
has a purpose. It's just waiting patiently until you find the perfect piece for it, right? The
yeah.
perfect way for it. Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes if you try to rush it, like if you try to rush it, it never makes me happy if I rush something.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. Same with me. Like I'll be like, oh, okay, I'm tonight. That's it. I'm gonna make something, and I'll try and I'll try and I'll try, and then it just frustrates me, and then I'll go days without actually being able to be creative, and I won't be able to construct anything because I've put too much pressure on myself, right? Whereas if I just kind of relax and I just play around, I think maybe I feel like something gray, or I'll pick up a piece and I'll be like, hmm, what do I think about you? And I'll start pulling out different colored beads, and I'll pull out and I'll work and work, and then I find what I was working on originally, I end up doing something entirely different because creatively it spurred me to
Yep,
do something else, right? And I find those are
yep,
the pieces that are really, they really really speak to me because I had no intention of even making them.
yep. And sometimes they seem to come from a place that you didn't know exists.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. There's pieces that I thought, wow, I love this, and I never even thought I would use this at all, like ever. Yeah. So it's really interesting. It grows. It manifests on itself, right?
Yep, no, it's true. It's true. Eventually it becomes like a almost like a snowball, right? Like when you're sitting there and you get flow and you're focused and
Hmm.
you step back and you're like, wow, I made all this.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You put on some great music and you kind of get into the zone, and it just it flows. It free flow. And then there's days too where there's, geez, I'll have like five different ideas, and I'll be like, wow, this is awesome. And I'll go back the next day and I'll look at them and I'll be like, okay, three of these are fantastic. I don't know what I was thinking with these other two. They're going, but then it's three solid pieces where it just kind of came out of nowhere.
And those are good days. Anytime you
Those are
create
great things.
something, yeah, those are good days. I wanted to ask you because on your necklaces you have little charms that actually say Juju B on them.
They do. Yeah.
That is so cool.
Thank you. Thank you. That was suggested to me actually by an artist friend of mine, and they were like, you've got to stamp your stuff. Like, how will anybody know it's yours?
Yep.
And I don't know what you need to do, but you need to do it. Right? So Etsy is my friend. So I went searching, and I found a store that would make them for me.
Oh.
And yeah, I love them. I love them because it does let people know that you do have a piece of mind, right?
Okay.
So, and
And it adds the
I always put a little bead or a little, well, it's usually a crystal because I do work a lot in Swarovski crystals and check glass, um, pearls, things like that. So there's always a little one that's connected to the necklace as part of that tag with it, right?
yeah, I love Swarovski crystals. They're
Oh,
so
they're
awesome. They
beautiful.
never lose their shine. Like I would make polymer clay and bake them in, and they would sometimes cloud over, and you just rub them, and they're just super shiny.
They're beautiful. They're so, they just catch the light. Like they
Yeah.
just, I've had people wear my pieces and I'll just stare at them and they're like, "What are you staring at?" I'm like, I'm actually dazzled by the reflection and the refraction and everything coming off the stones. And it's weird because they never get the opportunity to see that on themselves, right? Whereas other people, I think that's why they're stopped, because they're dazzled by the lights. You're blinding me with your crystals. Yeah.
But it's true though. They're so shiny. They're probably the shiniest crystals that I've seen. Like that I know you can buy for creating. Like
Yeah.
I love them. So what is a check bead?
So check is, it's a really high polished glass. Well, sometimes you'll get a matte polish too, but generally it's a really high fire polished bead.
Okay.
So they're stunning. They pick up a lot of light like Swarovski does. Um, but they're bigger in size, and sometimes they're domed, so they'll be like cathedral beads. Cathedral beads almost have like almost like a bit of a silver cap on the top and the
Okay.
bottom. You get a lot of really interesting colors with them. Like you get almost like yellowy greens, and they're clear, they're opaque. That I love them. I love working with them. They're not cheap, which, really nothing is, but they're gorgeous. They're gorgeous.
Especially you need high quality beads and pieces to
Yeah,
make them.
yeah, yeah.
No, I was wondering because I've seen those in almost every one of the listings, and I'm like, what are these?
They're the ones that aren't the Swarovskis. Yeah, they're generally the bigger beads. They're bigger, because you can't really get really big Swarovski crystals. Well, you can, but then the price goes up astronomically for my customers, right? So the check are more in line with being a moderate price, but they're interesting. You get so many different variations. Sometimes you can get even ones that are speckled, and they're really cool. They're really fascinating beads. Actually, check them out when we're done the interview, and yeah, I'm sure
Yeah,
you'll go down that rabbit hole. Next thing you know, you'll have a case of beads. Yeah.
I have a small box of Swarovski crystals that I don't know. I love them so much, and I won't use them because I love them.
Right?
One
That's,
day I'll
yeah.
find the perfect thing for them, right? So
I have so many beads like that. I'll have, I don't know, four, or I'll have three, or I'll have six. And I, they have to, they have to speak to me for a piece, because otherwise I can't use them, because if I use them, they're gone. Right?
yep, yeah. It's funny because you buy these things to use them, and then sometimes you're like, I can't use it, or I won't have it anymore.
Exactly.
I want to ask you a one piece, and it's the absence. Um, it's all in French. I forget what it was. Le Fée Vert,
Oh,
um,
yes, the absent
the
fairy.
green
Yeah.
fairy. Yeah. What is that? Is that like an old card you found or something? Because that is so neat.
It's actually a pendant. I found it. It's a, an illustration made to look like it was one of the absinthe bar, kind of posters from like the 1800s, where all the poets and the artists and that would hang out. But it's actually, the artist himself. I think he did it in the I think he did it in the 70s or 80s. So it's actually a fairly current piece, but I could be wrong on my dates. But it's a very, oh my God, a fairly current piece, but it's made to look old. And then so I just kind of worked the beats around it, so it kind of looked like it belonged in that era where it was meant to be, right?
Okay, that makes sense. I love it, and I love the color of it too. And I hope this doesn't sound insulting, but it's the same color as my grandma's kitchen was, and I
Oh,
love.
no, no, I love green. No, no, not at all. I love green. And well, my kitchen's green. My dining room's green, as you can see. Um, Yeah, no, and the whole absinthe theory, there's kind of like a mythos around that too, where uh so, absinthe was manufactured, the best absinthe was manufactured in Europe, in the Eastern Europe. Um, and the Americans, when it came to kind of New Orleans and that, they kind of ousted it because they're like, oh no, it's hallucinogenic and it has all these toxic effects and blah, 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 blah. But it's just actually a herbal alcohol, and it doesn't actually create any sort of bizarre hallucinations. Not any different than any if you drank too much alcohol of anything else, right?
Yep.
So it was weird. It's an interesting kind of niche thing that happened throughout time, but yet all the poets and the writers and the actors and the artists, they would all hang out at these absinthe bars and partake in drinking the absinthe over the pouring it over the sugar cubes and all of that. And it's just a time from a different era that I found really interesting.
No, and that's what I liked about it. Like it speaks echoes from the past.
Exactly. Exactly.
So I want to ask you, because I asked all of my artists, um, if you were talking to an emerging artist, someone who wanted to kind of follow in your footsteps, what kind of advice would you give them?
Hmm. That's a good question. Um, Tell your own story. Find your own narrative. Uh, yeah, be you. You can't be anybody else. So be yourself. And I don't know, kind of, it sounds corny, but follow your passion, follow your desire.
I would agree with that. And who was it? Oscar Wilde, I think he says. I think it was him who says, "Be yourself. Everyone else is taken."
Mm-hmm.
I really love
100%.
that quote. I really love that
100%.
quote.
Yeah, you can only be you, right? So
Yeah.
do what resonates with you, because then that means that whatever you make is authentic, and people will always see authenticity. Uh, they'll be able to see if you're copying something. They'll be able to call it out. But if it's authentic, they'll always know it's authentic.
Yeah. No, I agree with you there. And you you really have to make authentic stuff because sometimes they don't sell and you're stuck with it.
So true.
So you
One of a
better love
kind for
it.
you and you only. Yes.
Yeah. Yes, this is true. I had someone tell me once that if you love something, then everyone that if you love something, then there's someone else in the world that loves it too. But I don't know if that's always true. Like,
No, I think that is true actually. I think it just takes time, right? It just takes time for it to kind of get out into the world. And like I did a frozen Charlotte necklace, and I
oh,
loved it. I loved it, I loved it, I loved it. And I thought, I don't know. I don't know if anybody will ever buy this. I mean, it's frozen Charlotte. Like it's kind of a grim story, right? It went to Australia. So it resonated with somebody,
that's awesome.
right? Thank you.
I love it when my pieces go international and it's like, I have pieces in this country.
Well, and that's the thing, right? Like, it might not be somebody down the street or even in the next province or in the neighboring country, but somebody saw it somewhere and was like, no, that's mine. So it just takes time. It takes time.
Yeah, it's one thing that if we're going to sell our art, we have to we have to keep in mind because I know for me as an artist, really have a hard time with patience sometimes, you know.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I think sometimes you're overly critical on things if people don't recognize them, and you're like, "Ooh, did I mess up?" Like,
100%. The last jewelry show that I did, I was explaining some pieces to some of the people, and they're like, "Oh, yeah, no, I get." And I was actually starting to get a bit of a complex because I'm like, "Okay, like, is this not making any sense to anybody here?" Because, but then when I explained it to them, they're like, "Oh, yeah, okay, now I get it." So I think maybe uh, sometimes the stuff is almost a bit too subtle. It kind of needs a bit of explanation.
No, that's true. That's definitely true.
That's why when I do my write ups for my Etsy for my descriptions, I kind of try to put in there, almost uh, I don't know how I see the piece and how I would like it to come across, even though I know they're going to put their own spin on it as well.
And I actually like your Etsy write-ups too. Like the way you talk about the pieces, I'm like, oh, this is awesome. And it does kind of like bring it full circle for you, right? Like,
Thank you, thank you. It's one of the labors that I don't enjoy doing. Same with making reels. Oh, right.
yeah. I have such a hard time with the Etsy listings. Most of the time I just ignore my shop, which is terrible. But I just I get so frustrated with it. Like I'll go for forever not using it, but I keep it there. But I have a hard time. Not that I can't come up with the words or anything. It's just that I don't want to.
Yeah,
I
no,
don't want
it's
to
a
spend
lot
my
of
time doing
work.
it.
I would love to just create and do nothing but create, but when you have your own business, you have to wear every hat, right? And yeah, I find that part of it taxing because it takes time away from me being creative. And that's really just what I want to do. I just want to create. I don't want to have to worry about listing anything or photographing anything or, even shipping anything off. Like, I just want to create. I just let me create, right? But
Nope.
it doesn't work that way. So it's kind of you have to wear every hat, right?
Yeah. Well, lately, I don't know, probably over the last 2 years, I've done mostly like people have reached out to me and I've done commissions and stuff. And I like that because I don't have to do any of the posting or anything.
Yeah, those are great. Those are so great. I've done commission work for a few people, and it's wonderful. And I I ask them what they want. They give me their idea, and then I create it. I take a picture. I'm like, "This is what you want." They're like, "Yes." I'm like, perfect, because it's so much easier. It's so much easier.
It can be harder too. It can be harder too. Like sometimes it's hard to fully understand what they're seeing. So I take lots of pictures.
Yeah, I don't know. I usually they usually have with my stuff. They usually have something in mind, so they'll see another piece and they'll be like, "Oh, I really like some of that." But that's kind of where you get into the odd part with my pieces because they're all one of a kind. So if I'm taking apart an old necklace and I've taken all those beads out and I use three of those, or I use all of them for a piece, or add other pieces from something else, store I went to in Montreal, say, or whatever.
Yep.
I can't replace that stuff. So you kind of are going to get something similar, but it's not going to be exactly the same.
Yep.
So yeah,
And for
that's
well,
why I don't do any sort of variations in my pieces or different colors or because I can't recreate them, right?
yeah. And that's part of the magic of those pieces.
It is yeah, it is truly solely for you, right?
Yep. No, and I like that kind of one of a kind. You can never get that again. Like I like those kinds of arts. Like I had a girl that did glasscapes came on, and all of her pieces are one of a kind because once she uses up those pieces she has, she can't replicate them in
Yeah.
another piece. And I love that part of it because everything's unique.
Yeah. 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 No, it's great. So when I do commission work, it you'll get a couple of pictures, but that's kind of all you get because that's what I'm working with, right? So,
Yeah.
but I find a lot of my customers are just really wonderful about it. Like they kind of give me free reign to be creative, and just they kind of just turn me loose, and I show them stuff, and yep, it's perfect. I'm like, yay. That's what I like to hear.
It's nice to have that creative freedom, right? Like,
Yeah, it really is. It really is.
Shannon, this has been a lot of fun, and I'm so happy that you came on the show. I really appreciate you being here. And even with the little bit of technical issues we've had here, I this has been awesome. I'm so thankful you came on.
Well, thank you for having me. I've had a blast. It's so nice to meet you, and yeah, it's been great. It's been fabulous. Thank you very much for this opportunity, and it'd be great to meet you one day.
I would love that. And I do go to Ontario pretty much every year, so we could
Well, you'll
probably
have
make
to
that
let me know when
happen.
you're in.
I will. I definitely will. Thank you so much, Shannon. And if you are enjoying any of Shannon's art, you've got to get over and check her out. Her links are going to be in the description. If you like the show, make sure that you like and subscribe so you can see more. And I'll see you next week. Bye, my lovelies.